It's 10 a.m. It's time for Top Trades Spooky Edition. Mr. Gunner, how's everything going, my friend?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yep. Are
Excellent.
you wearing the same costume as me? I'm
Mine's
dressed up like the guy that YOLO'd on Meta calls yesterday, and I don't have any money left.
mine's a sweatshirt, but it is on your color scheme. I have a lighter colored shirt. I know you would never wear a shirt that's not black. I have a non-black T-shirt on underneath it.
Yeah, you can't do that. Well, greetings, everyone. We're live. We appreciate you coming in on for the rescheduled version of Top Trades. We're here on Thursday, Spooky
Yeah.
Thursday. Not only is it Halloween, but the market seems to be getting what did you say earlier? Axe pulled, like just
Poleaxed.
poleaxed, I don't know, grim reapered, whatever we want to call it. There's a lot of movement in the market today. We've got a bunch of earnings from this week. So you got some ups and downs, we got some starts and stops, which is nothing new for 2024. So what we want to talk about, Gunner, is top trades. We've got the election coming up. We're 5 days away. That's spooky. It's Halloween. And we've got charts going all over the place. So why don't you get everyone caught up? What are you seeing out there that you like? What does everyone need to know? What are some top trades?
Okay, so this is where my mind is at right now. Forget about the election. I think that we could see some volatility afterward, possibly, but I'm sticking to what Enrique and I have talked about, and what you and I have talked about for the past month or so. The market seems comfortable with both candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So that's. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's how I see it right now. I think we would have bigger reactions to poll numbers if that weren't the case. Um, but I think we can stay the course through the election and not really let that affect our trading strategy for the most part. The second thing is the market has been unusually giving us an unusually smooth ride lately. And I think that's important to remember when we look at a day like today where we have the NASDAQ down almost 2%. October, where was the October surprise? It's October 31st. What did we have that really shook the market to its core this month? Nothing. We've had a pretty good fall. September, October usually is when things get a little wonky in the markets, and we really haven't experienced that at all. We are sitting right near all-time highs. Earnings have been, for the most part, pretty good. I know last night there was some negative reactions to Meta and Microsoft, and we're seeing some sympathy moves from Amazon, Tesla, and some of the other mega caps today. It's the mega caps that are really dragging us lower right here. And some of the growth stuff, and we'll get to that in a minute. But for the most part, it's been a really, really smooth ride higher. So days like today, these type of resets, I'm fine with it for the most part, as long as it doesn't continue lower from here. I think we need to really just keep our eye on the ball. I think all the major themes are still intact. We have Bitcoin about to break out to new all-time highs. I don't think it's going to fail this time. I think we're going to consolidate here and it's going to go. And we'll look at those charts in a minute. I think that some of these tech growth names, some of these forgotten tech stocks are still very strong. Yes, that a lot of them are getting hit today, but I think that's the price of admission on a trade like this, is you're going to get some volatility, especially the ones that have high short interest. I know a couple of our open positions are getting hit today in this tape. I think that's pretty normal, and it's the kind of stuff that we should kind of expect when we put on trades like that we're going to have some volatility. And when we have a trade like Sound that's up 18% in a day, and I mean, it's not ideal that it tried to consolidate near its highs and now it's given back a lot of that move, or almost all of it right now. But yeah, I mean, that's how those moves are. They kind of move in fits and starts, and we have to do our best to manage those trades and white knuckle them. And you know, have the right position sizing and making sure we're not going too heavy into these plays and letting them work for us.
Yeah. Comments are open. We're live here on YouTube, so go ahead. If you got any questions, just want to say hi, any tickers, go ahead, throw them in there. Why don't we cover, I was just looking at a NASDAQ chart. I didn't want to pull up my screen, but the NASDAQ does, like you're saying, it looks like it's kind of smooth and going up. And then in general, the only thing I would start questioning uh, as a guesser of the future is like, is that setting up some sort of channel? It looks like we're starting to go sideways for a while. Who knows?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, we could go down a little bit here too. I mean, like, I don't think we should rule that out, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I don't think we're in big trouble here. Um, I think that there have been very high expectations this earnings season, and obviously companies that don't really knock it out of the park are going to get punished. We'll see how. I mean, we could have a totally opposite reaction after tonight. Who do we have tonight? Amazon and Apple, right? So we have two more big earnings coming after the close today. That could short term change the mood as well. It's just a really busy week. There's just a lot going on. But I mean, yeah, like this is the Nasdaq 100. We're down retesting this 20K area. I mean, this is prices we haven't seen here since last Wednesday. So I mean, again, not really the end of the world, but not ideal for some of these stocks. And you can see here from the heat map. I mean, you can see where the damage is in this market right here. I mean, look at all the red. Semiconductors are still hurting. Um, a lot of this computer hardware stuff isn't looking good. Tech's not looking good. Software's not looking that good. And then mega caps, Amazon down, Meta down, Microsoft, Nvidia. Um, that's where the real damage is in this market. And then we have energy stocks, trying their best to move off of those lows this morning too. So kind of the opposite action that we've been seeing lately, kind of a gut check move. The Russell small caps, actually, you can see over here, they were looking pretty decent. They were around break even at the open compared to the S&P and Nasdaq, which were both down considerably. It's starting to slip a little bit now too. It kind of feels like we're easing into more of a reset day here. And I don't have this exact stat, but I saw somebody mention this earlier when I was poking around online, that the S&P hasn't had a 1% move in almost a month, or maybe more. I don't know if we can confirm that or not, but
Hmm.
it's been relatively quiet out there. We've had a nice, slow, easy rally where and you got to put yourself in the frame of mind of your average trader or investor. When you have a nice, calm move higher, it's really easy to get complacent, and then you have a day like today. And this is, like I said, a type of a gut check day where it's like, am I going to be able to hang on to, these stocks that I probably have some gains on over the past couple months, or am I going to get spooked into selling? I think that people are going to be able to hang on since it's been, just not a very volatile environment lately.
Yeah, is there any yeah, I guess anything that like this could just be a normal gut check, like you're saying. It
Yeah,
seems like it's all the big names. Uh, with one day, it doesn't even really matter in the sense of you could start speculating if this was like several days or weeks leading up to the election. If I'm guessing on things, I'd start saying, oh, people are trying to take their money off the table before the election. But I think if that happens right now, from what I'm seeing from everywhere else, from you, from Enrique, and the market, I think that would be a very bad idea if people start taking their money off right now. Because I think Ken from Citadel said it the other day. He was saying no matter who wins, that's going to lower uncertainty. Like as in they'll have the certainty of whoever won, and the
right.
market will kind of like that and most likely melt up a little bit more heading into the end of the year, which I completely agree with because I do agree that the market's probably happy. 50% of America will not be happy, but I think the market will be happy with either candidate. They'll understand what's going on, and the uncertainty will start making people pile into where they see the future heading with the new president.
Yeah, and you always kind of see that. You see that jockeying for position after the election because people make all these assumptions about like, oh, if this candidate wins, then this group or this sector is going to
Yeah.
outperform. And I feel like there's those short-term moves, and then everything just sort of like smooths out, a week later, and it kind of goes back to whatever the situation was before. I think it would be just overall 10,000 foot view here. I think it would be silly to start like talking about changing strategies or changing major, short-term market viewpoints due to a day like today. All the stuff that we've been talking about, I think, is still true. I think that crypto is headed for a much bigger breakout here, and I know Bitcoin's down a grand today, which is nothing in the bigger picture here. I mean, you can see here the big channel annotation. I mean, this is a very obvious spot on Tuesday for it to run into some resistance right there. And I think as long as it stays tight up in this area, above 69.70 and churns a little bit right here, that we're in for a bigger breakout. And when this thing goes, I think it's going to go I think it's going to go hard. Um, I mean, I don't really see any other way. right now. It's been way too long. This is way too big of a choppy range for it to fail right here after all these retests. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just how I'm seeing it. And Enrique and I have talked about this. You and I have talked about it. I think that, you know, 100K is kind of a foregone conclusion right now. It's just a matter of when we get there and how quick that move is and how many of
Yeah.
these, gut check red candles you're going to get along the way. I mean, it's not going to go, I don't think it's going to go straight up to 100K. I think you're going to get those days where it's, you're like, oh my God, was this it? Was this the top? And it shakes the branches a little bit and then it pops higher a couple days later. But at the same time, I think it's going to be really fast. And I think people are going to have trouble buying into it, which is why I'm trying to anticipate a little bit on rallies like this. We have a new play in Wolf, which is like the hot new miner right here. It's down today. Um, this is not a big move for it. It's down like 6%. I know it feels like a lot, but it's really not when you look at this chart right here and how quickly this thing can move. It's doing a nice job of retesting those prior highs right there. If it can just springboard off of here when Bitcoin gets moving, this is one of those stocks where you kind of have to buy it if you're trying to trade it in these consolidation zones right here, because once they start to break out, they're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, see how fast this thing moved off 380s right here. It was down to 380 something right here, and then up 7%, up 6, up 2. You get these little breaks, but for the most part, it produces these multi-week rallies where it goes from almost $4 to 650. That's a huge move for a stock this size right here. So if this can really melt up into earnings and we can take some off the table before the 12th, I think this will be a really good trade.
Yeah. The other thing I'll add, and again, it's just fundamental, and I always try and guess at where money's flowing and what's happening. Do retail investors have money? Do they feel good? All that kind of stuff. We are at a point where Bitcoin went sideways for so long. And again, this is a dumb way to think about it, but this is how my brain works, right? People are getting paychecks for the last 8 months. Nothing's going bad. Their property values aren't going down. They're used to inflation. Like they could have some dry powder right now. And if Bitcoin hits 80, that dry powder is going to come out of the closet and start popping into it. I will say this, I'm not on the 100K bandwagon.
What do you mean?
I am on the 90. It's going to hit 90s. I don't think it tags 100. That's what
Well,
it did. At some point in time, everyone was like, it's going to go to like, this was not, this was like the last peak. There was some point where it's like, oh, it's going to go to 75. And then it just went to 70, right? It's like, I think that could just be just the trading insight. I just don't think it tags 100.
ever or just
Oh,
like
no, no. Yeah, we're going to build Brazilian
okay.
dollars, dude. I'm
All right.
saying
Wait,
this
you're
year,
saying
I'm saying in
yeah,
the next two
okay.
months,
Yeah.
we are going to hit 90s, 90K or plus. I just don't think we hit 100. I think you get enough people taking profits and doing whatever and whatnot. But I think we're going to hit 90 because this thing goes to new highs in the next week or so.
Yep.
That dry powder is going to come out of the woodwork.
I'll do a gentleman's bet with you on this one because I think that's interesting. And
2024,
I
100K
think
or
you
no?
I think you could, well, you mean 2025. I think you could be right.
No, I'm saying this year. I'm saying the
Okay.
next 2 months.
Okay. I meant by January 1st. So okay, let's say
Okay, January 1st, fine.
I think
2025, whatever.
I think let's do it this way. You think it's gonna be 90-ish, or it's not gonna get up to 100.
Yeah.
I'll take the other side of that just for a gentleman's bet right here and say that it overshoots and we get like 107 to 110. Um, just because of if we're in more of a melt up environment, I think we could do that. I think you could do either or. I mean, but we could get one of those that if in support of your argument, we could get one of those days where it rallies up to 100 just barely. It like gets up to 99, and then it has a big reversal candle, and then it gets stuck in the low 90s because everybody gets too bulled up on it. I can see that being a possibility, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna say we overshoot because people get really hooked on that round number. Then when they see 100K, they're gonna ramp it up a little bit more, and then maybe when it consolidates, when it's done with that move, then we see the low 90s again, and it kind of shakes people out who were just hung up on the 100K number. But yeah, I think 100K is gonna give it trouble, both
Yeah.
ways. I think it's gonna overshoot and undershoot because everybody's gonna get excited. It's gonna be nonstop Bitcoin talk when it's 100K. There's gonna be all the told you so's, and then there's gonna be all the mainstream media coverage of it because the media's been pretty quiet about Bitcoin lately. Kind of like how they were quiet about gold during the earlier part of its run up. It's been kind of the same environment where we've been talking about other things, and when I walk by the muted CNBC in the main room there, it's not a lot of crypto talk, and it really hasn't been lately, despite the fact that we've rallied all the way from the 50s up to the top of this range right here.
Yeah. Yeah, we got some comments coming in. We got Steve saying fingers crossed on BTBT. There's a lot of people in that stock. Patrick said long term it's going to zero. That could also be true. Ian's got 100K. What else? So let's stick on Bitcoin because this is going to be interesting. And I like you talking about something that seems fairly high probability and it's coming. It's this is a short-term, really good-looking trade, and you have TerraWulf on, so WULF. What are other trades? Are there any other trades that you like in the crypto space? Because
Um,
Wolf, what did it do? It went from 340 to 640 in 2 weeks. Like
yeah,
that's
no, I
pretty
mean,
crazy.
that's why, and that's why I picked this one. I mean, you have to go back to like knowing what kind of environment you're in right now. This is going to be kind of a degenerate gambling environment, I feel like, from now till at least the end of the year, where you got to really chase after some of these big moves. And this is the type of play I want to be in. I want to be in this as opposed to like trying to play like MSTR, you know, or something like that. That's like, or like a Bitcoin ETF that's like more subdued. I want to be in the smaller, more aggressive, junkier type of plays in this environment right here because I think those can run the most in the shorter term. It doesn't mean that these plays aren't going to do well. I still think they'll do fine, in a Bitcoin bull environment. But at the same time, I want to be concentrated, in those that are going to give me the most, the biggest gains in the shortest amount of time, or have the potential to do that. Now,
Yeah.
I think that Hood and Coin are good Bitcoin trades, but Hood is getting smashed on earnings today. So that's kind of an ugly candle that we're dealing with right there. We took final profits on our Hood calls yesterday because I told people like, yeah, hold a couple, and I held a couple of contracts into earnings and gave it all back, obviously, because I thought it had the potential to
That's
pop.
what your Halloween costume is. A person that tried to make some money on hood earnings and lost it
Yeah.
all. Okay, I got
Well,
it.
I mean, I came out well on top just because sold most of the position ahead of earnings right here, just because I didn't want the uncertainty, and we're sitting on these gains, and it had leaked higher nicely. It was a great trade, and but again, this goes back to the type of environment we've been in where this was a pretty easy hold. We didn't get a lot of shakes, after this big candle here where it was up almost 10%. It was pretty smooth sailing with a little bit of a melt up there. And now it's down 13% on an earnings miss. Um, I don't know if coin is moving in sympathy or not. I haven't looked at it. Yeah, it's a sympathy mover. It's down 6. Oh, did it report? Did coin report yesterday? So yeah, so it's
Yeah.
down to, I think these could still, like, I don't hate coin here. Like, I think if you're willing to speculate on something like this, if it firms up the rest of the day or maybe into the weekend, you might want to grab some shares here, just to play like a quick move lower. I think this could kind of repair the damage. I don't think it's going to move as fast as the Bitcoin miners, but I think it's a good like kind of crypto adjacent type of play. Um, it probably is a little bit more stable than maybe your Maras or your Riots. I've been watching Mara a lot, and I mean, I feel like this one just doesn't move like it used to. I
Yeah.
don't
It's
know.
the same with CleanSpark. They both just seem like they're not good traders anymore. I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why I kind of moved on to Wolf. Like you could see CleanSpark, it still hadn't gotten over the hump here from um this meltdown from back in August. Ian is digging through the chat, and then there's Hut. I think Hut is one of the better like speculative ones too. I'd put this in the category with like Wolf, Hut 8. That's a good one right there. So yeah, I think like you have to think about it this way. If you want something that's more set it and forget it, then go with one of the Bitcoin ETFs or MSTR, something like that. That's more of a proxy on
Yeah.
Bitcoin. And if you want something where you're trying to really rip some short-term alpha out of, uh, a bigger move, then go with like a Hut or, a Wolf or something along those lines that, can move exponentially with a bigger Bitcoin breakout.
Yeah. And this is one of your themes that you've talked about a while, where sometimes markets are in places where you really want to put your smart hat on. And
Yeah.
sometimes you kind of intentionally want to put your dumb hat on. And again, we don't say that like everyone that's watching, right? Your money's important, investing has risk, all those things. But there are times where like if the market melts up and Bitcoin heads to 100K, the players that you kind of don't know anything about, that don't have good financials, they could just be explosive. And there's nothing in the fundamentals or in the financials that's going to make you say, oh, this is a great idea. It's
Yeah.
kind of on the outset, it's kind of dumb, but in a derivative sense, it's smart. It's you're actually thinking risk reward wise in the right way. You're getting into some high flyers when the market's kind of going to melt up. So why put money on the table in Mara options when you could put money on a Wolf or a Hut 8 or whatever that's going to give you the appropriate amount of alpha, like you're saying.
Yeah, it's one of the toughest things about trading is like is really learning when to shift gears and be a little more reckless, because sometimes it hurts to do that. Like during certain trading environments, like the old grizzled vets do better because they know how to be more cautious and they know how to deal in less than ideal environments. And then like younger guys who maybe haven't lived through some of the bad markets are better traders when things are just going straight up because they don't have any problem letting stuff ride and grabbing a hold of clearly overextended names and being a little bit more reckless because that's the type of environment where you can get away with those things. So what burns people though is they maintain those same mentalities no matter what the market is doing. So I mean, like obviously, like if this was a different time of year and a different overall market situation, I wouldn't be talking about this is where we have to be reckless,
Yeah.
with the Bitcoin miners or whatever. I just think we're in a time frame where we're going to get rewarded for being a little bit more reckless on plays like that. Not all of them are going to hit, but at the same time, this is one of those windows that opens up where it's like, okay, I can really make my year if I just really put the pedal to the floor here and go and see what can deliver those really big gains. Now, on the flip side of that, we have something like gold here, which is, while we have Bitcoin breaking out to the upside, gold is really overextended. I mean, gold was pushing new uh all-time highs just yesterday, and it nothing seems to really phase it. I mean, the dollar has just gone crazy to the upside, and gold hasn't cared. It's marched higher right here. We're very extended from these breakout levels from back in July. I would not be surprised to see gold kind of backfill into the rest of the year. I still like it longer term. I like metals, precious metals longer term, but I feel like gold has run too far too fast. Now we've had a whole year now where gold has looked great. The miners have delivered some great gains, but I think it might be reset time and then some sideways for gold. Maybe it takes a few months, maybe longer. I'm not really sure, but I feel like you know if if this big push higher toward 2800 didn't do it for you, maybe now is the time to if you're thinking tactically, about gold or miners and stuff like that, maybe now is the time to sort of pull away from this area and start looking elsewhere and letting this reset and churn a little bit.
Yeah. The other thing, this could be a segue into where you want to go next, Gunner, but like this is completely unrelated, but it's something that I've talked about with you and I'm seeing pretty loud and clear is that if anyone's in tune to the markets, what's happening in the bond market right now is pretty crazy in the sense that we had a rate cut in September and bonds are just going down, which is not what Jerome Powell was probably expecting. And I think what's happening there, and again, this might be something we just, I'd like to get your take on it, Gunner, but like, I think the bond market is signaling that we're heading into inflation. We're heading
Yeah,
heavy duty into inflation. And it's basically saying people should be moving over to equities right now because the 10-year is at 4.3 on yield. Like that is super high. Normally, over the last 3 years, that type of number would take air out of the NASDAQ. It's not doing that. Instead, bonds are going down and NASDAQ's pretty strong. So there's something weird going on there, but I think it's just a very, very huge arm wavy inflation is coming warning. Is that what you're seeing, Gunner?
yeah. I mean, that's how. And Ian and I have talked about this a lot. Yeah, I think it's all pointing toward the reflation trade, and I think this is something like maybe we don't have to think too much about it through the holidays, but then in January, like see where we're at on something like this. But yeah, I think that like it's gonna be obvious in the commodity market. I think we're going to see
Yeah.
things, start to move higher. And if you want to get political about it, maybe this is what people don't want to talk about. But um, again, I think it comes back to whoever wins this election is going to have to deal with it. And I don't think it's party specific. I think it's going to be. I think we're going to see reflation
Yeah.
heading into Q1, and I think people aren't going to like it, and they're going to blame whoever's in charge, and it's going to get ugly. I mean, think about all the people who have were forced to or decided to make a big home purchase with rates elevated, and they're being told like, oh, you'll be able to refi. They're gonna the Fed's gonna be lowering rates and not rates are higher. So I mean, like I mean, I'm laughing about it. I feel for these people, but I think it's going to start to be a bigger theme, and it's going to start poking at the market a little bit. We'll find ways to trade it, and we'll reassess in January. But yeah, I think that might be where we're headed. Inflation is not something that we like to think it just moves in a straight line and things are great, but I think that we're gonna see it start popping up, in various places around the markets pretty soon.
Yeah. And that's where gold, I mean, again, gold, I agree. And Enrique's kind of said it like looking a little overextended, but that's why it's going up. It's going up out of this very deeply rooted inflation trade, I think. And I agree. I mean, I'll get off this topic, but I mean, we could be looking at what we saw in the 80s where Volcker went in, cut rates too soon. There was a peak of inflation, and then all of a sudden there was a second peak that was way higher.
Yeah,
That would be an interesting world that we live in. But in a positive way for equities and stuff, we'd probably see a melt up before we saw it being considered a bad thing. Like, oh, inflation's too high and everyone's run out of money and whatever. That's going to be months away. That would be after a melt up.
yeah. Um,
Here we go. Let's talk semis. We had a couple comments in there about SMCI. We can trash
yeah, we
talk
can
on
talk
them
about that. I
too.
mean, like the semis, I mean, they're not looking great today. It's interesting because so Nvidia's earnings schedule is a little bit different from the other big stocks. It doesn't report for a few weeks, right? I think it's mid-November, maybe later November when it reports, and so we have this kind of lag between these other big stocks and then Nvidia reporting. But yeah, I mean, it's getting hit today. The SMCI thing is bad. I mean, I'm not an accountant, but when your auditor, releases statements like that, that is not a good thing. I would not step in front of this thing at all, thinking like, oh, this will just blow over. I think this could be very bad. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious in the price where it's like, when you have the price chart digging down here into the volume bars, that's not good. Down 32% yesterday, down 15% today. This breakout from earlier this year where this thing just took off, this breakout that I failed to buy, that I talked about a lot and then didn't pull the trigger on. I hate it when that happens. It's gone. And I think this company's in trouble. I don't know what this means for the rest of the sector, but it's not looking good for SMCI. And there's a lot of very smart people who have been talking about SMCI and their strange accounting practices and how it didn't look up to snuff for a while now, and they've been right. And it's coming to roost right now, and that's not great for the stock. Now, as far as the rest of the sector goes, I think Nvidia still looks pretty darn good up here. It's rolling over a little bit, but it broke out finally earlier this month, and it's still just right up here by those summer highs. It's really tough to be bearish Nvidia right now. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't go out and like buy it with both hands at the moment, especially with earnings looming right here. But at the same time, I mean, how far removed are we from these highs right here? I mean, it just hit all new all-time highs last week again in the 140s. We're $10 off. Big deal. So this thing is still a behemoth, and I think it would be kind of silly to bet against it at this point, even with a little bit of the turmoil that we're seeing in the group right there. Maybe we're in a situation like we've been kind of hinting at for the past couple months, where some of these bigger winners from the first half of the year take a break, and some of the growthier stuff really pops off in the melt up. We have the Mag 7 stuff not looking so hot today. Google's done really well throughout all this, and they had a really nice looking earnings, and everybody really liked their report. I mean, Great chart right here, resetting a little bit today. Came off of its highs yesterday, but for the most part, that's a nice clean breakout, pre-earnings and post. Don't hate it. But then compare that to like, Microsoft today. Kind of an ugly move where it's been, juking back and forth along this 200-day moving average right here. Maybe this needs to reset some more. But I'm very interested to see how everybody responds to Apple tonight. I mean, this is a really good looking chart. I mean, can Apple really wow people and get this thing broken out above 240 and running, or is it going to be back down here in the chop? And same thing with Amazon. Amazon is a very interesting risk reward situation right now, because if we go back, Amazon was crushed in 2022. It's just sitting right on top of these 2021 highs right now. So it's round tripped this move, and it's just sort of resting, waiting to go here. Really good spot. I really wish earnings weren't coming up, but like this is a really good spot where if this thing bounces and starts to move, I think you have a really good risk reward area to bet long on something like this. If it misses and drops lower, maybe it just needs more time. But yeah, like Amazon's been kind of a laggard as far as these bigger names have gone. Yeah, it bounced back from those late 2022 lows right there, but it's still. I mean, look, this is a lot of these stocks have left these 2021 highs in the dust, and it's still just sort of sitting there waiting for that catalyst, waiting for something to happen, and it looks coiled and ready to me. So we'll see what they can deliver on, whether it's going to be cloud or prime or whatever. I mean, they got their fingers in so many businesses. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah. All right, you want three tickers that are summing up the day? I just looked at some of the high movers, dude. It's crazy.
All right.
Carvana, Piton, and Roblox. It's like they're all 20% today.
Okay. Carvana.
You,
I mean, what a stock. I mean, they went from
they went from $4 to a billion.
hey, it's yeah. I mean, the move of a lifetime right there. It went from hey, we're going bankrupt to just kidding. We're up a gazillion percent, and earnings report was good. I mean, they're making money. Who knew? Car vending machines are back.
Freaking back,
people,
dude.
people hate car dealerships that much. So
Dude, that's what I still don't understand it. I don't understand how car dealerships exist. They're the worst. When you buy a car, it takes like 4 hours. And I'm telling you, I bought a car on Carvana one time. I don't know if I said this a billion times on calls like this. It took 20 minutes.
yeah,
And then they drop the car off with that flatbed. It's got lights all over it. It's like
yeah.
they're trying to make it look all flashy. But then I'm like, oh,
Social
this
media. You're
person.
supposed, you're supposed to take a picture of it on there for your Facebook or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
I was like, this person's gonna take like an hour of my time to transfer it. And it was just like a tow truck driver. He's like, here, can you sign this? And I just signed it. And it's like, had a new car. 20 minutes plus signing a little paper after they delivered it. When you go to buy a Toyota, oh my God, it's like 4 visits, 3 hours to
You got to get
sign
that
all the
paint, got to
dumb
get that paint
papers.
protection. Got to get that paint protection. Got to get the
Ugh.
underbody spray, whatever. Right?
Meanwhile, Carvana, look at that. All right, Piton.
Yeah, Peloton, another one of those stocks that's not a zero yet. Um, I mean, we were talking about this thing when it was breaking out above $5. For the record, I'm not saying I would have bought this thing ahead of earnings. No way. Because who knows what they would toss at you. I have not looked into their earnings. It says right here
Nothing to
that
look
it's
into.
better than expected. Well, what was expected? I mean, I'm glad that they're still in business here. I mean, and this again, I think this kind of goes back to our melt up theme right here. The forgotten names from the pandemic are bouncing back. Like did Zoom report? Because Zoom was sitting right. Zoom reports early November. They report no, the 19th, later November. So Zoom is right here at a level two. I mean, look at
Oh my
this.
gosh.
Don't look too far back. Keeps on going up.
Ooh.
But no, I mean it's trying to base out, and I don't think Zoom is a zero. Um, but yeah, I mean trying to get out of these bases right here. And then what was the other one you had for me?
Roblox.
Roblox. Yeah. So we got stopped out of this trade. Um, and it's up big on
Yeah, that
earnings.
one's ugly. That one's not as good looking at Piton and Carvana were pretty baller. This one's a
Well,
choppy
no,
mess,
no,
but
no. I mean, this is a big base, though. Look at this. I mean, this is coming out of a big base. I mean, obviously, this is an earnings move right here. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is a big one. I think this could have a potential to run. It might have to close that window right there, but I mean, this could run. I feel like this could run to the low 60s before it stops, which is these IPO lows right here. That confluence of buyers and sellers right here, where it was sort of chopping along after it IPO'd in 2021. I think I could get back to there in no time. If this continues right here, as long as it doesn't dip too deep into this gap, if it holds this area and shows that, like, yeah, I'm breaking out of this base finally. I think it has legs, and also all that bad news. That short report was nasty on this stock from a few weeks ago. That tore it down here into the low
yeah,
30s.
that's when you guys had that play on it. It's like you can't
Yeah.
tell those things, but look at it. It's like, and again, it's all about timing and options. This all matters. This is why you can't ever, investing has risk, that kind of thing. But like, you guys had a good thesis, a good trade, and then you get hit with this stupid short report, and
Happens
then
both
that
ways. You
candle's
get
sitting by
positive and
itself, and
negative.
now they blow out earnings. It's like, come on, you dumb
Yeah,
dumb.
that's how it goes. But I mean, like, yeah, I would never put on an earnings play on this stock, because who knows what the hell you're going to get out of Roblox. And who knows what people are going to be focused on. Is it going to be monthly users? Is it going to be like a revenue beat or miss? No idea. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's good to see like a bigger base breakout like this, but like, from more of a strategic perspective, this gives me an opportunity to put this one back on the list of, like, I'm going to watch this chart and see what it does. If it retests and holds and then starts to move higher again, you could get a really good risk reward buy off of something like that and say, like, okay, this base breakout's really going to move. If it doesn't, and Roblox has a history of bad behavior. I'm talking about the stock price. It has a history of, like really janky moves. We've talked about stuff like that before, where I talk about the personality of stocks, where it's like Palantir, great buy, really tough trader,
Pull it
you know,
up.
those things.
We
Um,
had it in the comments. You're reading people's minds because I don't think you watched the comments, but
no,
we
I
got a
don't. I
comment on
don't see. I don't.
Palantir.
I don't get the comments. I don't have that type of technology over here. Yeah, I mean PLTR. Like, you see these crazy moves right here. Tough trader. I mean, but obviously, if you can zoom out and squint, it's just a straight line higher. Takes all those wrinkles out. But it's rolling over here today. And this might be a case of just too hot as well.
Yeah.
Just too hot of a stock. And this is a reset day, so that makes sense to me. But
It
again,
needs a breather. I still hold my Palantir, so I do like the little Palantir dance all the time.
you got earnings on Monday
Hold.
after the close for Palantir. So who knows what you're going to get with those.
Well, I
Um,
sold some covered calls on it, so whatever it is, it'll probably get me. It'll get me good. I think I sold some 50s.
See, if CNBC was smart, they would do like a man on Wall Street like type segment, where they just like went around with a microphone and they asked fun questions like, what does Palantir do to like young analysts? And they'd be like, well,
Well,
it's one of
such
those things where it's
as
like tough
such
to,
as the AI. Yeah.
yeah, where, yeah, people try to it's one of those stocks where nobody really knows what it does, but everybody kind of does. Um, which I think helps and hurts it to some extent. But yeah, I mean, tough trader,
What
great long.
about do you want to pull up SoundHound?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. How bad does it look? First of all, I haven't looked at it since.
Not that bad. It doesn't look that bad.
Yes, it does. Look at this. So this is when I was talking about price of admission. So going for these, and this is a junky stock. We talked about that before we got into it. We're looking for a big squeeze in this, and we got what looked like the beginning of a really big squeeze on Monday, where this thing was up 18%. I mean, this thing just started pushing higher in the morning and just roared up here to this level. I thought we would consolidate a little bit. Tuesday was good. This is fine. Down 1% after an 18% move. I'll take it any day of the week. I figured we would get bounced around a little bit up here, but I was hoping that we'd be able to take out this like 1620, 1625 mark, which were those July highs, and move higher. Instead, we got grinded up in this market right here yesterday, off by 9%. It just started tumbling into the close. I remember yesterday the Nasdaq was pretty decent in the morning, and then it just bled off into the afternoon. It took a lot of growth stuff down with it. This was no exception. And then today, down 6%. 6% is really nothing for this stock. It's just very demoralizing to have an 18% move just get swallowed up like that. So if it can like recover here and start to like give us a pre-earnings move higher, that's great. If not, I'll take the small loss or whatever it is. We're probably back just below break even on something like this right here. I'd have to look. but I'd take the small loss and move on. I know some people were very quick to take gains right here. In hindsight, that was a great move. But I mean, it was sitting probably right here in the morning in the 550s, and then like by the time it got to the close, it was 613, and then we really didn't get the extension higher to take the gains the next day. So we'll see how this one plays out. But I still think it has a squeeze potential. There's still a boatload of shorts in this stock. I don't think everybody magically covered on this one day, um, and wiped out the whole short float on this. I don't think that's the case at all. So, I mean, we could see a recovery here. This could just be an ugly reset. Not holding my breath on it, but I would like to squeeze some gains out of this thing if possible.
Yeah. Oh man, what is this? Someone's asking to look at Root Inc. I don't even know what this company is.
Well, Ian just tossed me CMG that somebody asked about. So this is an interesting one right here because it was looking good after where's the Magic Enrique day? It was like right here. It was on the reset day where this
No,
is
it was that little tail. No, see the little candle. Is it a
this one
shadow? What's that called? Yeah, it was on that day.
that was on this day. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
look at all the volume. So yeah, it moved off its lows. It's still above that mark right there. It was same store sales that were bad that nobody liked for Chipotle, and it was down 8% yesterday. Up today after opening lower right here and clinging to this 200-day, this might be a good risk reward spot to like grab some if you're looking to grab shares or something like this because if you're going to be wrong. Like if it closes below like $56, then get out. But if it manages to like chop along here and then close this gap and then push higher, you could be looking a couple months from now at like it retesting those all-time highs and pushing higher from there. This is a good spot, good tactical spot to try to buy something like this if this is your bag.
I like it. You want to know a Chipotle hack?
Is this an ordering hack or is this a stock
Yeah,
hack?
no, this is a lifestyle situation. I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start heading this way in life. You just order catering on a Sunday. You go pick up like $150 worth of Chipotle. They
Yeah.
give you these big boxes, and then you got Chipotle for like 3 days, way cheaper. And you get to make your own stuff for 3 days. It's great. You got to really love Chipotle, but that's the game changer. Because like my family, if we go there, it's like $50, 50, $60. So I can just get catering,
Yeah. I mean, I
big
think that's a good
boxes.
move. I would do that on like a Friday afternoon. And then I
All
would
right,
have
Friday afternoon, that's good too. I was thinking Sunday. I'm thinking setting up the week.
and then I do my breakfast. I do my breakfast hack where I dump the rest of my bowl into a pan and I put some sunny side up eggs in it. You gotta
Right.
do that. You
Oh,
gotta do.
that's interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Well, if you had catering, you could wake up and be like, oh, you'd be making
Yep.
custom omelets, dude.
Yep. Yep.
All
That's the way
right.
to go.
All right. Well, that stock does look good. Speaking of stocks, I love Chipotle again. I think they're going to keep the demand's going to say like, whoa, same store sales are down. Like, let's be honest. If they got their stuff together, people like Chipotle. There's a lot of money to be made.
Well, and on the opposite end of the spectrum, I think there's a lot of negativity about Starbucks right now. Everybody's dogging on Starbucks.
I don't
I'm
know
not a big
why. It's
Starbucks fan, but
good.
I don't think I'm a good barometer for these things. So I try to keep my own thoughts about that out of here. Reported earnings and really isn't doing much of anything. I think that's probably positive. Everybody's negative on Starbucks. They got that CEO from Chipotle. Maybe he has some ideas for him to fix this thing. Um, but the fact that earnings weren't great and everybody like last night who was chatting about him online were like, yeah, Starbucks sucks. Earnings suck. They're the worst. And it's only down 1% on a day like today. I think that's pretty bullish. Um, Maybe it still needs some time to chop along here, but I would not be surprised if we look back when this thing is breaking out, if and when it does, if it's breaking out above 110 uh in a month and like, oh, maybe things aren't so bad and maybe the narrative starts changing right there. But I think that's kind of that's a bit of a tell for me when everybody's talking smack about earnings and everybody's on the bearish side of the boat and it's hanging in there just fine. Maybe they
Holiday cups. Holiday cups are probably coming, what, tomorrow?
Oh, see, I don't know. I'm not a Starbucks person, so
I
maybe.
just have a feeling, right? Isn't like it's basically once Halloween's over, it's Christmas. It's horrible. So watch out. Watch out, everyone. Today's your last day of regular life. Tomorrow it's
Yeah, I guess
basically Christmas time.
today is the last day before it's Christmas because
Yeah, you're
no
gonna walk in like you go
Christmas Eve.
walk in a Walgreens right now, it's probably like Christmas trees and stuff down that one aisle.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Can't take it. All right, what else we got? You want to look at another pick that I have? I saw it in the chat, Credo. CRDO. That's another one like Palantir. I've got a position in there. I'm just kind of holding it.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Tough trader, nice longer term chart, all over the place though. I mean, like, look at
Yeah.
this. Reset day. Everything's reset. I mean, what's the market doing? We're still, yeah, we have not found the lows yet. We're still just leaking lower across the board. Um, so yeah, I mean, take it for what it is. It's a reset day. I would be looking if you're being tactical with this, I'd be looking at it landing somewhere between like 33 and 36. I know it's a pretty wide range, but this thing has been bouncing all over the place. But see how it responds once it's done with whatever this is, and
Yeah.
then buy on a green wait to buy on a green candle. Like too many people are very eager to buy the dips and something like this. They're like, Credo, I've been wanting to buy this. It's down 5% today. Give it a minute. Like see how it all shakes out, and then buy it on a green candle, not a red one.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian in the chat, he knows. He's like, Matt has just a few shares of Credo. He knows the truth. He knows that I can't, like at night, I go to bed terrified. Credo shares all over the place.
Man, yeah,
No, it's a respectable high conviction position.
I mean, overall it looks great, but the day to day it's tough to look at. That's a set it and forget it. Like
Yeah.
you get days when you're down like 14% and then 8% the next day, and then it makes it back up in a month. Ugh, yeah, it's a rough one.
Yeah.
It's a nail biter.
All right. Do you want to look at Root? I still don't even know what Root is. They're up
Yeah,
like
I'll
a
look at it.
billion
That's fine.
percent.
I wanted to look at Bitcoin real quick to see if it's yeah, Bitcoin's still retreating too. Yeah, this is getting to be a reset day for sure. I don't think we're gonna magically pop out of this one in the afternoon. Root, just ROOT.
Yeah. I don't know what they do.
Okay. Well, they're up a lot. How about
Yeah.
that?
Turns
It's up
out
100,
they're
it's
up
up 170,
170%. I would
170%.
assume the question came in, they probably just look at the top movers for the day. That is probably the one.
They refied a loan. Revenues are up. Um, this is a smaller company, $600 million market cap.
Little.
I don't know it. This thing can rally. Look at what it did after these earnings in February.
The technology insurance company.
Huh.
Whoa.
That's a hell of a move. I mean, congrats for getting ahead of this thing. Um, I'm going to say this. I don't think I've ever bought a stock on a day when it was up 170%, expecting it to go up more in the short term. Um, I mean, I'm not saying it can't,
Yeah.
but I would think this thing would need to settle down a little bit here. I know this part of the chart says otherwise. Um, but this has a history of like making these huge moves and then look at this. Okay, so let's play this game right here. All right.
Buy it. Yeah, buy it. Oof.
Right here, it's up 60%. And then it needs what, 6 months plus, 7 months, 8 months to chill out at those levels. Doesn't give it all back, but like, it has to rest. You get a straight up move like that, it's got to bleed that off a little bit. So bleeds off all that excess enthusiasm. Gaps higher, 50% on earnings back in February, and then really runs. And now it's been bleeding off that move for the past, 7 months plus. And now we got a gap higher right here. I would assume that you're going to get plenty of opportunity to grab this thing at some point between now and March of 2025 before it does whatever it's going to do again. That would
I
be
know
my
nothing about
best
I know
guess.
nothing about this company, but I'm just gonna start guessing, right? Technology insurance. There's probably someone that knows someone in the government, and this is like some sort of lobbying. They're like, oh, everyone needs to get this technology insurance. And there's this one company, it's someone's brother. All right. I don't know. I don't know what kind of technology insurance is just doing this wacky look. It went from like $11 up to 50, and then now it went from 42 up to 109.
I mean,
Something going on.
this could be the next big stock. I don't know. Like, I think it's worth watching. I mean,
I
with
like
this,
the ticker.
well, look at this. Going back
Uh,
here,
uh-oh.
this was a pandemic IPO, I guess. It'll be interesting to see what happens with it. I mean, like maybe this is just a big base and it's coming into its own right here. We'll see. But I think just from a purely technical perspective, not knowing anything about this, we can chop along here, and there'll be a chance to figure out number one what the hell this company is, and number two, what its next move is going to be. I think you got time.
Yeah. All right. Gunner, you got any last words? 5 days till the election. I'd
Yeah,
keep throwing that
I,
into your face. Like I know you don't. You're just like, I'm just looking at charts, but like
yeah,
I gotta, I
I'm
gotta keep
trying.
throwing it in there.
Look, I'm trying my best. It's impossible to ignore. I'm trying my best to ignore it. It's kind of a circus, but um, I'm trying to keep the election out of my analysis for right now because I don't think it's going to help me out. I'm sticking to what the market's telling me right now, and what it's telling me is Bitcoin is consolidating right by its highs and threatening to break out. It's telling me that a lot of people have been piling into a lot of these tech growth reversals, and they have been popping off left and right. Um, it's been telling me that we're approaching melt up season, and we should be getting ready for some of these moves to extend higher. And we are probably in more favorable than usual market conditions right now, which allows us to make these speculative bets and to chase some of these stronger, maybe junkier, but stronger trends that are starting to emerge. And they're giving us an opportunity to book short term games on them. And so I am going to stick with that playbook until the market tells me I'm wrong. But I think that regardless of what happens in the election, we'll sort that out by mid-November. And then we'll have 6 weeks of kind of like stay on your toes. Let's trade the hell out of this market and smash and grab and take what we can heading into the new year with these themes.
All righty. Well, everyone, thanks for all the comments. As always, thanks for tuning in on the rescheduled day. We'll be back on Tuesday at 11. So that'll be election day.
Yeah,
But
back
if you
on
saw it
track.
from Jim Rickards, right, I think it's 2/3 of people will have voted by election day, which is bonkers. I don't understand. Why can't we just have one election day? It's nuts. Whatever. Coming to you next week, we will have no information on the election. The market will probably be dead flat that day. Uh, and we'll see what happens. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Top Trades. Thanks, Gunner. We appreciate it. Thanks,
Yep.
everybody.